interrupt your regularly scheduled programming to bring you some breaking news. There's been reports all over the area of something crazy going on, something big. People's homes, their minds even, are being taken over by something called, what is it they're calling it? They're calling it Bad Movie Debate.
Do you smell that?
I don't know if I can smell what you're smelling.
Do you smell? It smells. I don't know. I think it's coming like through the computer from you. It smells like fucking nerds in here, dude. You smell that? It smells like there's a bunch of fucking nerds in here, dude. Oh wait, just kidding. That's my audience. Hi, nerds. Here we go.
Oh.
We're doing it. That was great. That was a long walk to water, wasn't it? But here we are.
Yeah.
It'll be
so wait,
fine.
Are we going now? Is that my intro?
Yeah, this is it. You'll introduce yourself in a second. This is it.
Oh, no worries. It's fine.
Yeah. Welcome back, everybody, to Bad Movie Debate with me, Jacob Babb, your fantastic, super fun host who's not very good at debating because I haven't won one yet. We'll see if that changes today. I feel passionately about my opinion about this one, but someone who might be even more passionate than me, my host, Jonathan, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Okay, sweet. Yeah. Well, hey, I'm a movie buff. I'm a nerd. And hence why we're talking about this specific movie today, because if it's Bad Movie Debate, like, it's going to be part of my argument that it's great. In terms of being a bad movie. It's like sometimes we need them. But for myself, yeah, you and I have been friends for like 4 years. No, wait.
No, it's been longer than that. No,
longer than that, like 5 years. Let's see, 2018.
18 or 19. Oh yeah, no, so 4 years. I'm bad at math.
So yeah, it's like almost 4 years.
Yeah.
Which is dope.
Shit. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. I think it's November because I was a seasonal.
Yeah, you started as a seasonal. So yeah, so next month. So now that you don't work at Barnes & Noble anymore, neither do I, thank God. No offense to our friends who still work there. Sorry, Drew. But,
Calm your out.
Yeah, well, he's fine. He loves it. Go Titans. Titans are winning right now. Last I checked. So go Titans. It's Sunday. Go Titans. Woo. But anyway, this isn't a sports podcast. Could you explain what you do for a living and in your free time?
Yes,
just because you're the most qualified person to talk about movies that I'll probably ever have on. So you could just let the listeners who don't know who you are know who you are and what you do.
Oh, I guess I should. Well, yeah, I think it definitely plays a role because they're going to be like, why is this guy talking like this? Like, too many details that are slightly unimportant to the audience or relevant to the audience.
Yeah,
but
it might be a lot of that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I've been working in the film industry for like 10 years. I started off in location management. I was one of those that went to film school. I knew at 15 years old that I wanted to be a writer-director. Started with home movies with a VHS JVC camera on my shoulder. That's how it all began. And then, after like doing film school for a couple of years, I finally moved down to Atlanta in 2015. Just kind of been rocking it there. Location management is kind of my expertise. But I've since switched gears since the pandemic into the health and safety department. Just keeping crews safe and trying to like make things work within the parameters of filmmaking. So that's kind of like my background.
So yeah, but you're making people safe on crews for Hollywood blockbusters, like really pretty significant movies. So you are in literally like balls deep in the film industry, right?
Yeah, it's become a really small world here since starting here like 7 years ago. But I've had the privilege to work with like Marvel, Sony, Netflix, all of those people, television shows and features alike. I've thankfully stayed away from reality television. And that's because my first love is screenwriting. So that's what I do. I've been writing scripts for 12 years. And so that's first and foremost is always story, characters. And then after that comes like the process of making a film. So
yeah, but so long story short, you know your shit is what is what
just a little bit, just a little bit.
you know a little bit. And then here's a super random question that's still really related. So have you ever won any awards for your own short films?
Yeah, I won a couple of for my own stuff. Is this like sarcasm?
Yeah, I'm trying to reiterate to the people who don't know you, who will be listening, that you are a short film award-winning writer and director, and you work in the film industry with major studios like Netflix and Marvel and Sony and shit like that. And I am going to sit here and try to tell you why you're wrong about a particular movie.
That's perfect. I get it. So you're putting me on the highest pedestal with just like a toothpick as a stand so you can kick that thing up.
Yeah, that's how I'm hoping this goes. But I just want everybody to know what kind of trouble I'm about to get myself in. But
no,
anyway,
you very may well have a great like counterpoint to whatever I'm going to say.
We shall see. So before we get into what we're talking about today, I do want to go over the poll for the last movie, because it was a hot topic, kind of. Well, not really. It was The Last Airbender, M. Night Shyamalan.
Ooh.
Yeah, you know that one. Yeah, that was a passionate debate. And people on Instagram said 71% bad and 29% good, which is honestly a lot more good than I thought. Granted, 2 of those are me voting for good, because that's what I was arguing. So technically, I was the only one who voted that it was good. So yeah, that one's shit. We all know it. I knew it before I even sat down to talk about it. There was some good stuff in there, but whatever, doesn't matter. So today, instead of that, we're gonna talk. It's spooky season. It's October.
Season.
It's real. I'm wearing a skeleton shirt. Like, I'm ready. I'm drinking
technically Twin Peaks.
Hell yeah, Twin Peaks shirt. That counts. I'm drinking an Oktoberfest beer as we record.
Yeah.
Free ad for Hutton and Smith. Rocktoberfest from Hutton and Smith here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. The best Oktoberfest. That's a free ad for Hutton and Smith. I love them, so they're welcome. Everybody who listens to this show already knows that they're the best, though, so it's fine.
Yes, I'm going to check those out in a couple weeks.
Oh, they're amazing. They're amazing. But so today we're going to be talking about the cult classic, straight up classic. Yeah. Who knows? A little more of a cult classic, Pumpkinhead. Ooh, what a doozy! What a doozy! A doozy of a film. And so before we get into it, as always, we're gonna go over top 5, each of our top 5 monster movies, our favorite monster movies. Yeah, we're gonna go top 5 monster movies. Perfect. Just monster makes more sense, like you don't want to bring like Halloween and like Friday the 13th into it. So monster movie specific. Yeah. So what are your top 5 monster movies?
Now,
no particular order.
From 1 to 5? Okay, no particular order.
I never do a particular order. It's just whatever. I just write them down because they're just all in the top 5 though.
Yeah, man, I'm like a classics guy, so it's always going to be like Creature from the Black Lagoon, The Wolfman. Technically, obviously Dracula, like those type of monster movies. I'm really big into Frankenstein. I mean, that's 4 right there. That's all, the classic Universal monsters, and, The Invisible Man. I guess it's technically 5 right there, right?
Like, yeah. Yeah. So it's literally just all the best 5 Universal movie monsters is your top 5.
Yeah. It's the OGs.
Man, I get that.
Like, you can't get any better for some reason sometimes.
I mean, you genuinely can't. And it's funny you say that, because one of mine is, since you've done your top 5 so fast, just ripping them off. One of mine is Creature of the Black Lagoon. I love that movie. It's so fucking good, dude. It's so good. It's so creepy. Those underwater shots are insane for the time that it came out. I have a
side story about it too.
Ooh, quick sidebar. Let's go. Hit me with it.
Quick sidebar.
What is it?
So we were so obsessed with the Creature from the Black Lagoon as a family that my cousin actually was the one who kind of led that charge. And every year on his birthday, we would call him and we would play on the TV that one bird sound that's always in the background when they're like on the Amazonian River. It's
yeah,
like
dude.
quintessential to that movie, and everyone recognizes that bird from that movie.
Oh yeah, even if you haven't seen that movie in so long, like you'll hear it and you'll be like, why do I recognize this? Where is this coming from? Like, and you're like, what? Where is this coming from my subconscious? Like, I know this, and like I'm scared all of a sudden, and I don't want to go in water. Yeah, dude, it's insane. It's insanely good. But so Creature of the Black Lagoon, with a special mention of all the other Universal movie monsters, because I love all of them as well, because they're all so fucking good. They're all so good. And then I have let's see. The audience already knows this, but technically it's a monster movie. The Thing.
Oh yeah.
The Thing, John Carpenter. Halloween is his best, but The Thing is right there next to it. It's so good, and that monster is so fucked up and scary in the best way. And then kind of sticking with the Universal movie monsters, but a little bit different. Young Frankenstein. Young Frankenstein.
Comedy in there. That's good.
Dude, hell yeah, dude. I watch it every October. It's so good. I'm doing my 31 for 31. Follow Bad Movie Debate on Instagram to keep up with what I'm watching. Because I'm going to be posting quick reviews of everything. That'll be on there at some point. Spoiler alert, I already fucking love it. It's so good. Mel Brooks it's his best movie. It's his best movie. And it's just Frankenstein. Like the whole bit. It's just so good. It's just so fucking good. And then I have another one is Bram Stoker's Dracula, the Francis Ford Coppola one.
Yeah,
where the only thing wrong with it is Keanu Reeves' terrible British accent.
Oh my gosh,
it's really bad, but we can forgive him because I understand why they put him in it, because he was a hot commodity at the time that it was made. And he's still a hot commodity, as we all know. Everybody wants him to be in everything. Like
I have a sidebar about that too.
God damn it! All right, what's a sidebar?
Bram Stoker. I have to, because I think this is kind of like completely connected to it. Bram Stoker's Dracula. So I got to meet the Oscar-winning special effects and makeup.
Hell yes, dude!
Movie.
That's fucking awesome. Because they did like so many practical effects, like in like a time where like doing like CGI and like faking the sets was like becoming like the thing to do, and they were like Coppola. I mean, Coppola, Godfather. Like, he was like, nah, fuck that. He was like, fuck all that.
Yeah, I mean, next to Joe Belasco, Matthew Mungle was like the king of all the special effects makeup. Obviously you get more into that stuff with the animatronics and the beasts like Stan Winston.
Yeah.
But like, I got to meet Joe Belasco, who did the original Creature from the Black Lagoon. And then he had that on display. One small funny note about Matthew Mungle from Bram Stoker's Dracula was we had this big red carpet rollout because we were doing this big event. And basically like Matthew Mungle was walking out and I didn't see him. And I was working the event and I pulled on the rug and he was standing on it and I went, oh no,
shit.
like that. So I literally pulled the red carpet out from underneath an Oscar winner. It was the weirdest thing ever, dude.
God damn it. just to reiterate, Jonathan's been in the film industry for so long. He's done something as as silly and casual as that with fucking Oscar winners. Oh, Jesus Christ. But anyway, yes, that Dracula is the best one. Well, Bela Lugosi, it's up for debate, but that's one of my favorites. And then finally, I say this one for last on the list because we're going to talk about it a little bit more probably going into the Pumpkinhead Alien.
Oh, I mean, 100%.
Yeah, Alien, like you want to talk about a monster movie, like fucking God, like it's so good.
And it's multiple genre too. It's like, sci-fi and it's like it's in space and then it's a monster.
Exactly, dude. Hey man, in space no one can hear you scream in space, man. That's what they told me, and they're right. They're right. You can't. It doesn't work like that.
Oh my God.
All right, but so Pumpkinhead, we're gonna go over some real quick before we get into yelling at each other. We're gonna go over the scores, and then I got a couple quotes from reviews, one good, one bad, as always. So Rotten Tomato, this one's a little different. Rotten Tomatoes the critics give it a 65, which is modest, which is very, very nice of them to do. And the audience is 48. So the audience really didn't like this one. The critics liked it almost a full 20% more, which is
Wait, is
shocking.
this Rotten Tomatoes?
Rotten Tomatoes, 65% critic, 48% audience for Pumpkinhead.
When did you record those stats? What day did you do that?
Today.
That's weird. So I did 5 days ago. I wrote down the ratings, and critics was at 63 with 23 reviews, and it was 43% for the audience at 10,000 reviews.
That's so weird. People
people
started watching it like recently and like had such passions about it that they had to write it right as we're about to record it. That's a weird synchronicity. We won't get into synchronicities and stuff. It's not that kind of show. We're just gonna blow by that, but that is very weird. So IMDb had a 6.2, so like, you know, pretty fair. And then Metacritic had a 47 critic, and then their audience was a 7.8 out of 10. So a little bit of a reversal on Metacritic. Metacritic's a little bit more critical, no pun intended, with their critic stuff. But, you know, so I mean, it's up and down. There's a lot of this and that going on with this one. It seems 100%.
It's either you like it or you don't like it. I don't know if there's anyone out there that, well, we'll find out today, if anyone really hates it. And I don't necessarily know anyone who really loves it outside of myself.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and say right now that I actually really did hate this movie when I was watching it.
Gosh.
I mean, granted, I did go into it knowing that I was going to have to bash it and stuff, but I was like, man, this is, I really genuinely don't vibe with this.
Oh, man. I hear you.
So we're going to do, okay, so now we're going to do the reviews real quick. So Derek Adams for Time Out. This is the good review. He said, quote, delivers more than ample amounts of full-bodied fantasy, end quote. So he's all for it.
Okay, yeah.
He loved it. Full-bodied fantasy, ample amounts of it, just dripping with it. And I mean, yes, it is very fantastical.
Yeah.
But like that's like the most complimenting quote I could find, even though 65% of critics liked it. Everything else was kind of, I don't know. And then Richard Harrington for Washington Post said, for the bad review, he said, quote, typically hollow and patchy. The script is low par for the course. The acting close behind, end quote.
Well, see, that's interesting. Like that bad review talking about acting in the script. So that'll be something interesting that we can definitely talk about.
Oh yeah, we'll be talking about the script and the acting.
Dude, did you read the script? I went through and read the script, so I actually read the actual script.
Oh, of course I didn't read the full script. No, I didn't sit down and read the full script. Fucking nerd.
It's good. It's written
I told you it smelled like fucking nerd in here. It's not. So obviously I'm saying it's bad. You're saying it's good. What's something, I like to ask this of everybody before we get into it. What's something you didn't like? What's something that you were like, that's bad. Like that's not working for this movie. And I'll share something that I did like.
I think for me, one thing that probably could have helped is a better editor. Like I felt like there like transitions between scenes and sometimes moments. It was either something where they didn't have enough footage, you know, things to cut to, different shots.
Oh yeah.
Or they had all the footage and they just made not the best decisions in post-production. Because like I could have seen it cut a little bit tighter. Not in terms of length, but just transitions of scenes. And sometimes like whether we come back to a shot or whether we have a different angle or approach to a scene. But I mean, it's got some iconic shots at the same time, but
no, there's definitely some good shots. And I think that's what my thing I did like was like that some of the cinematography was like pretty solid. You know what I mean? Like some of the cinematography, for me, like that was the best part. There was some shots that were like really well done and like really spooky and like got you right into the story and everything you needed. But not much more after that, in my opinion. So I think the first thing I'm gonna come out hard with my first and biggest point, since I already kind of
Okay.
teased it, of why
Oh
I'm so
dang.
mad at this movie. Everybody's always talking about, from what I've seen, from what I've heard, from what I remember, watching it the first time, long time ago. Everybody's talking about how good Pumpkinhead looks, like the monster, like the special
Okay.
effects, like for Pumpkinhead the monster, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It looks exactly like a fucking xenomorph, just white.
Yeah.
It has the
Does.
elongated head, it has the weird shoulders, it has the long tail that's flapping around. And
Yeah.
everyone's like, oh my God, it looks so good. It's so scary and stuff. And it's like, yeah, because it was already done by Geiger fucking like a decade before this. So
Yeah.
no, I'm like, I've seen this exact monster in a different movie that was way better, way like better written, better acted, better across the board. I've seen this monster do shit. And this
Yeah.
monster,
Yeah.
like an alien, it actually can move around because there's a person in it, like that can move
Yeah.
around. It can do stuff. This one, it's like, okay, this is definitely just a prop and like a puppet, and like, cause it like barely can move and stuff. And I'm like, I've seen this exact
Yeah.
monster in a totally better story with better acting and everything across the board. So I was immediately like in the opening scene where it's like back in like 1952, and like it's the dad, you know, and
Yeah.
like the Pumpkinhead, like that's how he knows to like summon it and stuff. We'll get more into the plot and everything here in a bit. But as soon as I saw it, I was like, cool kill scene. That's a xenomorph. I was
Yeah.
already checked out. I was like,
Yeah.
well, I already know this isn't going to be as good as Alien, because it's a cult classic, not a classic. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that was just, it's just like, and then like that's one of the biggest defenses of it that I've seen from people and heard from people is like, but the monster Pumpkinhead looks really good and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, because it's a ripoff. Like it's
Yeah.
just
I think.
it's a little less perfectly formed, and it's white, and
Yeah.
that's it. That's the only difference between that and a xenomorph.
Yeah, I know they did body casting for it. Like, there's some at certain points it's like full on, like either animatronic or a puppet. The other moments there's actually like a man in a suit controlling some of the basic shots where it's like the wide shots.
Yeah, but it
And
still
it's
barely
mainly because they get that
moves.
wide. Yeah, it
But
barely
it still
moves.
barely
But like
moves.
that's
The
kind of the
xenomorph
thing.
is like doing all kinds of crazy shit. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, then yeah, the xenomorph moves so fast. I mean, this creature, like Pumpkinhead, does move quickly, but not to our knowledge, because it's this weird thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of ties into the other special effects element that always comes up with when Pumpkinhead is around, where it's wind and it's that cricket sound, it's that or
Mm-hmm.
that cicada sound, and then it's lightning. Like, and you're always like, whoa, what's happening? And it's almost like it's a demonic presence rather than an actual like physical monster.
Okay, see, but here's the thing, dude. That sound is very similar to the sound that the xenomorph makes too. Like the xenomorph makes
Yeah,
a
it's very
similar sound
yeah.
to it. Like it's like the first, like there's no way that the filmmakers hadn't seen Alien. Like there's no
Yeah,
way.
100%.
And like
Yeah.
there's no way that they could argue that they like just like pulled it from the collective unconsciousness and like happened to go for something similar.
Yeah.
Like they can deny it all they want, but like it's like they're trying to bring the same elements of something that had come before that was better. And like I'm not saying it's like plagiarism.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's a ripoff, because like, I mean, you know, what do they say? They say good artists create and great artists steal, like
Yeah.
something like that. And like, I mean, that is 100% true, like obviously, but like, but
Yeah.
but they didn't do it right. You know what I mean? They
Yeah.
stole from something else, but then they didn't like enhance it in any way that was
Yeah.
really working for me. And a lot of that, it comes from the overall structure of the plot. I thought the plot was stupid as shit. Like, I don't know. I just like, I get that the dad, like the kid gets killed by the teens, and like while they're on the way to the cabin and stuff. And then like the dad's the one who calls Pumpkinhead and stuff. But like, they're trying to tell those two narratives at the same time, of like them being all worried and freaked out because they have their like super stupid, because like that one guy, oh my God, what's his name? Joel, with the the guy who runs
Joel.
over the kid who
he doesn't give a
yeah,
shit.
he's like, oh, I gotta go, like I can't be here, I'm already on parole for running over a different kid in a different situation. Like, so this guy's a piece of shit. But like like their whole story is like, it's like that's really all that there is, but they're the ones who are supposed to be getting killed. We spend so much time with the dad and his like journey. It's more of like a drama with supernatural elements than a horror movie, like it's supposed to be. You know what I mean? Because then like the westerny type music, when the dad and the son are doing stuff, or like whenever I'm like, this isn't like I feel like I'm watching two different movies here, and they're trying to smash them together and make them related. Like, you know what I mean?
Well,
and I'm like,
it's super interesting because it feels like resonant of like the soundtrack itself, the soundtrack and score and all of that, like kind of comes out of John Carpenter's field with the synth.
I mean, yeah.
But then it like throws a twang in there with a guitar, and then it throws in harmonica for moments that act alongside the choir. So it's like, to me, whenever the music comes in and I'm like just seeing what's on screen, what makes me think more about this is kind of like it's a Southern Gothic tale versus like a full on. It's definitely a monster movie. So it's like a monster movie that's wrapped up in a Southern Gothic tale because there's this like recurring thing. Like you were mentioned, like the one kid who was like Joel who hit Billy and killed Billy with his motorcycle. Spoiler alert, everybody. But
there's always spoilers. You should know that by now, guys.
Always spoilers. Yeah. And so when he did that, though, and then we find out, oh no, he's on parole or probation for like killing another kid in the same scenario. But then you also have Ed Harley, who thought that he could basically run from this and is trapped up in it once again. Like he's slightly exposed to it as a kid, and then seeing what others have done, like almost like his parenting, like, you know, they told him, it's like, we're not leaving this house type of thing. And then it's like, okay, that's how you survive, or you just don't. And he kind of does that, like as a character. He's like, when the teenagers show up, he's like, whatever, fuck them, I don't care. Like, it's like, oh, these kids are nuts. Until, like, you know, he even leaves Billy there. Like he's so like unaware, oblivious to these teenagers. Like,
he's super
care.
nonchalant. Yeah, he's super nonchalant about that whole thing.
And then,
because Billy was a good boy, and so he like usually did what he's done. But then the fucking dog ran out. So
Billy's my boy. Billy, he's the best. Like, and it's actually funny. So, like the actor who played Ed Harley decided to sign on to the movie when he read the scene when Billy wakes up in his car in the bed of the truck. Or in the cab of the truck, and he just like, what did you do, Daddy?
Yeah.
It's like, but that too kind of speaks to the elements I feel of the story, like more where it's more supernatural in a way, because obviously there's like witchcraft and there's all that involved.
We'll talk about the witchcraft scene here in a bit because I have some comments
100%.
about that. But here's the thing though. So I feel like, so yes, I agree that it's a Southern Gothic thing, and I get how they're trying to like weave the two narratives together. With the dad and with the teens, and like, but I don't know. It's just like, they spend so much time on Ed and like his like calling of Pumpkinhead and everything like that. We don't get the first Pumpkinhead kill until 47 minutes into the movie. I paused it when the first kid finally got hit. It was 47 minutes to the movie. The movie's like what, like an hour and a half, like hour 45 tops, like something like that. Like that's not, I don't know. Again, I get it as a Southern Gothic, but like it's horror too. And I'm like, and there's a monster and stuff. Like, give me that. Like, that's what people are expecting. Like, and you know, like, sure, they're trying to subvert expectations, but look at Game of Thrones and look what happened when people tried to do that. But we won't get into that. Different episode for a different time. But regardless, the point is, we didn't spend nearly enough time with the teens for me to give a shit about them getting killed. Like when the first kid gets killed at 47 minutes, I was like cheering. I was like, fucking finally. Like finally something is happening.
Yeah.
Like finally, like the monster movie I like was told this is happening. And and so that made it very difficult because I had to spend all that time getting to the point of like the monster and stuff. And then to springboard off of that, what frustrated me too was when they're in the church, like the last two kids who are alive, and you have like the like dirty Southern kid teen who like is trying to save them in the abandoned rundown church and stuff. He finally explains what Pumpkinhead is and why it's happening. There's only 20 minutes left of the movie at that point when they understand what is happening and why this is happening. And I'm like, I get that the movie is supposed to be mostly about Ed and his struggle and everything. But like you have to give me enough time with the kids and the teens to build into their fear. Otherwise, when they start dying, I'm cheering because something's finally fucking happening and stuff. Because like, you know, they set the scene and everything really nice. Like it's definitely creepy. You definitely get, like you said, that Southern Gothic feel. Like that's all there and stuff. But it's a long walk to finally get there. And then when you do, you get white xenomorph and it's like, okay. You know what I mean?
There's
like,
there's some parts like I think this is my thing is like my approach from is like, and I've kind of experienced this recently with some horror films is like it's really hard. Like if I can't even like empathize with like any of the lead characters or the protagonist of the story, like it makes it really hard for me to care if anything really happens to them. So but it's interesting, but it's really hard in Pumpkinhead versus like other monster movies because it's kind of a slasher monster movie where, you know, there's the dickhead teens or like just, you know, freaking adolescent nonsensical beings that are just there and taking up space, and then the monster comes around, just doesn't want them around, takes them out. And then that's definitely a huge element of this monster movie. But then I guess the thing is like it definitely is about Ed Harley's journey, and like for me, like I kind of love that because you don't really see like, I mean, Ed Harley's story in this has literally like a beginning, middle, and end, just because it shows him as a kid, shows him as an adult.
He has a complete narrative.
The struggle. And then dies. It's crazy. And he pays the ultimate price, which all of that is foreshadowed. But here's the thing. I don't know if this saved it for you because inside the monster movie, there's a B monster, which is Haggis, the witch, that to me, like really elevated the thing that I loved most about it because it really spoke not necessarily so much about the lore, but like the supernatural aspect of the movie.
Yes, and that's good. That's I do like that, and I do think it's necessary for this kind of a story. But first of all, real quick, her name is fucking Haggis. They couldn't have come up with a more original fucking name for some old witch and living in a swamp, a typical witch living in a typical swamp, like and everything like that. Like, and her name is Haggis. Like,
it's confused, I think, regionally. It's a regionally confused movie because think about it. Like it opens up and you see all the California hills, but it's not supposed to be there. So you're thinking,
no, it's in the South.
It's like maybe, I don't know, because then you go to Haggis's place and then there's a swamp and then you're like, Yeah, you're trying to piece it. I think it's Tennessee. Like, I think you could probably play it in Tennessee.
I think a big thing that I think that is kind of frustrating for me in this movie, but one thing that I did kind of like at the same time, I just feel like they didn't execute it right. I would say this is definitely like a Southern exploitation film. You know what I mean? Like it's like like they're good.
Like Hatchet. Kind of.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
But Hatchet, Hatchet fucking rocks, dude. Victor Crowley and shit. Come on, dude. Yeah, like that
Crowley's
shit rocks,
amazing.
dude. Yeah, Crowley's great. But like, it's like that, but like it misses the mark. And it's like, okay, you have your super country people walking around and talking, and they're all scared of the evil witch that lives down in the hills, deep in the valley. And then they're all the other fucking characters. They're dirty. They don't know. They don't know what a fucking camera is. Like
the Dust Bowl kids, like on the back of the truck.
They're literally wearing fucking like potato sacks, and they're dirty as shit. They literally don't know what a fucking camera is. So like these like city teens need to be like, oh, it's just a camera, it's okay, and like explain what it is and shit. And it's just like, and like I mean, people have done that before. Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
Yeah.
like they do the same kind of a thing, but like then they executed off of that in a way, like that Southern exploitation that I think that works. You know what I mean? Like this one just like completely missed the mark in its execution, and I think a part of it is because we don't see the a part of that is we don't see the city people, the outsiders, like actually confronting like the Southern entity, whether it's Leatherface or Pumpkinhead, like actually like coming to get them. The story the focus of the story is too much on Ed, and I think Ed's story is great, but I think it needs to be more balanced, because at the end of the day,
I get that.
At the end of the day, I think it would have been a better movie if we start with the kids. Like we like open like with the kids, like they're on their trip. They have their Prophet of Doom, where they're doing the little like Pumpkinhead nursery rhyme thing to the other kids, so they get introduced to the idea of Pumpkinhead. The accident happens. They run away and stuff. We spend some time there to see Ed like grieving and like going to get the witch and stuff, like just a very short amount of time, like going to get the witch and like going to send Pumpkinhead on him, and then the rest of the movie, so like a whole other like hour is them trying to get away from Pumpkinhead and like trying to like figure out what's going on and like why this is happening and stuff. And so then it becomes like a thing that's about it's just like it's about their because they sinned, you know what I mean? Like it makes it about like their evil sin is what's going to doom them to the hell of Pumpkinhead. Like that's what Southern exploitation is supposed to be. Like not this like really romanticized drama with some supernatural elements of like Ed and like him going for that. Like so like Ed's story and like it coming there, or it would have been cool, like no offense to Ed, again the story is good, they could have just had them kill the kid, then Ed and the kid are gone, and Pumpkinhead is just like a local legend of like an entity. It's like the spirit of the forest that comes out and like exacts punishment on evildoers, or like not evildoers per se, but like outsiders who come in and mess with the fabric of what the small town is supposed to be. And so because that is a very Southern thing, like people from outsiders come in and they're like, oh, they're shaking stuff up, and then like they don't like that, you know, like in really small towns, like in the South and like even in and like, and of course like the Midwest too and stuff. Like I think that's a better story, and that's not what we got. And so I was like, that's what I was kind of hoping for and expecting once I kind of read the synopsis before I dove back in, because it's been a very long time since I had seen it. And I just feel like that plays better and stuff, because again, once the kids start getting killed, like when Pumpkinhead's being all cheeky and he like is dinking the girl's head on the window, and then like and they're like, oh shit, oh my god, and then he smashes it through and the one girl faints. I was dying laughing. I was like, that's so fucking funny. Like that is so fucking funny. Like, and I just feel like I feel like there's a way to tell both of those narratives while spending enough time on both to get to the final point. And yes, you're going to have to make the movie longer at that point, but
maybe, hopefully not. I mean, that was the thing, is like, so just, you know, it can kind of come back to a little bit of the editing and stuff like that. Cause at which point you jump locations, whether you're with the teens or whether you're with Ed and you're dealing with all of that. I think it's like where I'm a little bit more forgiving toward this movie, and why I think it's like has still a very true cult following, because people could say something like Halloween is a classic cult movie, but then it's not really a cult following anymore because it's super mainstream and thanks to the franchise as well. But it's like any of those types of monster movies or slasher films that are kind of a blend of two, and then they, you know, they have now this like plotted course. You know, I remember like it's really hard when you have so many characters. Like it's normally theoretically, like what you set up, what was that idea that we would start with the teenagers and then they would be starting up and then they'd get tied into everything that was happening around the town with Ed Harley, the Haggis, the witch, and all of that. And it's like, that I totally see as like that main structure of everything. But it's like, just judging from the opening of the film starting in 1952, and then and you're with this family and you're being introduced to the protagonist as he's a child. It's like, I feel like Stan Winston, who's the director of it, like this was his directorial debut. So I'm very much more forgiving. toward what exactly happened as it became a finished film. And I think it's something to where, like, I feel like because Stan Winston, like, this was like his directorial debut, is that he really focused so much on a more linear protagonist driven story rather than like ultimately like a story that affects like directly all of these characters, like on a more deeper story level, like, because we don't care about like any of the teenagers, and at the same time of us not really caring about any of them or hating them, it's like rules are also being like joked about or not followed or broken, because it's like there's that one scene where basically you know, the guy and the girl, Steve, and the girl Tracy or whatever, and Bunt, who's that one kid, Bumpkin kid, and they're inside the torn up, burned down church or whatever, and Pumpkinhead shows up and he's at the door. My inclination since I saw that was like, oh, he can't pass through, he's a demon, blah, blah,
that's
blah.
what I thought too.
And then he just walks right in, and then they leave, and it's like, that was a clear decision, because anyone could have seen that and been like, yeah, it's a church, this is a demon, he probably can't come in despite it being burnt down. But then like it not only breaks the rules, but like Stan Winston goes a step farther. It's like, here's a crucifix, and then the demon grabs it and just breaks it, and you're like, what the frick?
Okay, see, I'm glad you brought that up, because I thought the same thing. He gets to the church and I'm like, oh my god, if he can't go in to this church and like that's what saves them, I'm gonna be pissed. Like,
exactly,
seen it a million times, like, god damn it.
Yeah.
Then he walks into the church and I'm like, hell yeah, all right, cool, like that works. But then they overcorrect because he picks up the cross, and they zoom in on the face, and he does a little smirk, like a cheeky little like smirk, like being like and I'm like, okay, now's the time for comedy. I was just like, it was just like they overcorrected with it. Like they were too like on the nose with it. Like he picks it up and he smashes it, but literally like the monster smirks. It has a little like half grin, like
this is like demonic. Yeah.
Hell yeah, bro. This is gonna be so sick. Watch me fucking break this cross in this church, dude. I don't give a fuck. Like, great. Like, just have him walk in. Have him
like defied expectations. No?
Have him walk in, smash the cross as he's walking by it to follow them. A very subtle, very obvious, but subtle. Not like this whole big boom, 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 boom. Like, I don't know. It was like,
well, like, I think again, it's like, interesting because Haggis the Witch talks about how he has to go, like Ed Harley, she basically commissions him to say, if you want this done, this is what you have to do. And basically he has to go to this graveyard that we've discovered is like from the townsfolk that actually live here. Like that's where they bury all of those that they're ashamed of. And you're kind of like, okay, if Pumpkinhead is one of them, it's like this demonic force that would absolutely kind of like smirk back at the fact that it's that it can survive and defeat good, basically, no matter what. Because even the girl, though, like that pops up again with the crucifix, is like they set up this rule with the girl who's like the most overtly Christian character, I guess.
Yes.
And she has the crucifix, but then she comes outside and you're like, oh, she's outside, but she's safe. She has the crucifix. Maybe it's like harkening back to like monster movies like Dracula, but then boom, like just grabs her by the head and drags her over the roof. You're like,
and that's great. Yeah, like when he grabs her and stuff, like that's great. Like there are some good kills in it, you know. Like there's definitely no debating that. But yeah, like I do appreciate them, like, you know, taking down like the like going against the I can't speak. The typical Southern exploitation thing of like, well, God will save us, and like the Christianity side of it, and being like, no, that's not going to work. This isn't that kind of a thing. But I just feel like it was like, we don't know that she's even Christian until like 10 seconds, like 2 or 3 scenes before she dies. And then like they go in the church,
shock,
and then, like,
the whole beginning.
You're like Christianity is like, it's there. Like they threw it in there just to be like, nah, this isn't what this is. But like, give me hints of that along the way. Because no one talks about it. No one even mentions it, you know, like, cause Ed goes straight. He doesn't go home and like scream like, why God, why, or anything. He goes straight to, hey, where's this fucking witch? Like, where's the
Yeah.
witch? Like, he just immediately says, like, nah, like, I don't even care. You know what I mean? Like, give me a little taste of him, like, struggling to make this decision. He's like, nope, this is what I'm going to do. He's sad.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this. Like, not like, give me some more emotionality. Give me some more of that, like, internal struggle of him being like, I'm a man of God, but this is like what I think justice is. Like, there's like, he just goes straight to it. You know what I mean? And I just like, and so like, it just like, I get what they're going for, but it doesn't really work for me. And then you were talking
Ed Harley,
about,
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to just say, like, Ed Harley, like, there are so many small things, like really small, that when I watched this movie with my friends, actually, and sometimes they make joking jokes, like they're making jokes as we're going along, but they're at the same time pointing out these small, subtle things. Like, Ed Harley is like, okay, he witnessed the whole thing happening to others with Pumpkinhead early as a child. He was warned of how to avoid it. And then, but there was always something off, like Ed Harley, just the way he looks, the way he acts, and he's very much a loner outside of his son. He obviously had his wife who passed away and died, but then, and we don't know the extent of that, which would be interesting to also delve into sometime later. But it's also after the death of his son, like, he goes to the bottle, like, after doing this whole thing, making these choices. So you're like,
I mean,
and my buddy was like, where'd that bottle of booze come from? And he's like,
because he says, he does say, like,
alcoholic.
oh, we don't have any beer, we don't have any liquor when the teens first get to his little shop. Like, you know what I mean? And I did notice that, and I was like, yeah, he's going to the bottle and stuff. But like, with the direct plan of like, we're gonna like God's not gonna save them and stuff, like there's no hint of that. Yes, he goes to the bottle and he goes down the dark path, and I'm like, yeah, but like, where's the struggle? He just immediately shows up to the dude's house with all the little bumfuck kids and their dirty clothes and stuff. Like, and he's like, where's your grandpa? Hey, where's the witch? I'm going to see the witch. And he's like, no. And then the one kid takes him there and stuff. And so the witch scene. So he shows up and he's like, you know, obviously it's a typical swamp, typical witch, typical. I've seen this movie a million times, right? He comes in and he gives her a bunch of fucking gold coins, like, and puts it in her. I know, but just like what year is this? Like, this man just has a bunch of gold coins, like perfectly shiny gold coins that he just dumps in, and she's like, that's not enough. Like, okay, great. But then she sends him on a video game fetch mission. Like, his story is like a bit of a fetch mission in a video game. You're like, okay, I want to get revenge on these kids. First, I go to this guy and I give him his chicken feed for free, and then he tells me where to get the witch. Oh, it didn't happen? Oh, here comes the kid. He tells me where to find the witch, which is like, nope, you got to go all the way, excuse me, to a different part of the area to go dig up this dude. And then you have to come all the way back to me. Like, oh my God, it's not a video game. Like, it's not why can't it just be right there? Like, why can't she be living near the graveyard since she's already a witch and everyone knows it and she looks like a fucking witch and shit? Like,
this is something I thought about, though. There's like these layers of evil. Like, it's like you have Pumpkinhead, which is basically just evil incarnate, and then you have like the witch who made a choice at some point and then went all the way down, and now you have these people who are like just teeter-tottering. And she even warns them, like, even warns Ed all the time, like multiple times, like, you've got to make the choice. You've got to do this. Like, it's like all of these options are still like constantly available to you, but it's like, how badly do you want this revenge? And it's like, I don't know. I feel also like the fact that he, like, the way Billy was killed and who he was killed from, it made it very easy for Ed to just be like, I'm
exactly.
This demon.
Well, yeah, it made that very easy and stuff. But again, like, give me some of that struggle. Well, instead of just like, oh, this is exactly what I'm gonna do because I know Pumpkinhead is real. Like, and I know there's a witch who can tell me how to do it. Like, it's literally like he doesn't like again, like, I correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember God being brought up at all, like, before the end where they're explicitly like, nope, that's not going to save you. It's like, okay, well, I didn't think it was going to because you haven't been talking about it the whole time. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so like, that's very frustrating from like a narrative standpoint to me. I'm like, okay, so we're just going to put this in there and then we're going to take it right back out. Like, okay, great. Why did we spend the last like 30 minutes of this movie doing that. And then
yeah, go ahead.
I'm also just frustrated with how easy, as soon as he realizes that he is going to be seeing through the eyes of Pumpkinhead what's happening to the kids, he immediately flips and he's like, no. And even then he's not like, oh God, I'm sorry, like please forgive me. He's just like, oh shit, I gotta shut this down, this isn't cool. Like, and he just flips right back to being like, no, this isn't cool. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, okay, so this has got this, he's fucking flip-flopping like a politician, like just back and forth and back and forth,
sure.
whatever works for his personal agenda, like to get him ahead, like every single time. I'm like, give me just a little bit more depth. And even though he has like the deepest story and like he's the best actor for sure, Ed's actor, like whoever whatever his name is, he's the best, you know, and he has the most emotional scenes and he does well with them. I just think those scenes are out of place for this kind of movie, and I think he's still pretty shallow because he flips. He goes, I'm a great dad, to I want to seek revenge, to, oh wait, I have to personally experience this revenge like through the eyes of the entity that I brought. Absolutely not. I'm going to shut this down because I can't live with that now that I have to actually see it and be a part of it. And then like, you know, like the dog bites him and he's like, and then Pumpkinhead's like, because it's like, oh, it's him, like, oh, like he's the evil, he's brought the evil into the world. And again, I get that, I get what they're going for, but like, make me care more, because I couldn't decide if I was supposed to be happy or sad about the teens being killed. Like I couldn't tell.
I mean, that's like, it's really hard because like I think in these movies it's really hard. Like I always come back to like, I don't know, I as I've gotten older, for sure, like I've become a lot more forgiving of certain movies that I believe are trying hard, and you can sometimes tell when a movie's really trying to be good, you know, versus one that thinks it's good but isn't. And that's like a lot of modern films, but like you can tell, like, okay, there's like two examples like that. One I stumbled upon, and two was very apparent, which you mentioned earlier, which was the monster looks very much like the xenomorph. These guys were clearly inspired by that. So that I kind of took upon myself in my research process, all the behind the scenes stuff that I could find, trivia that I could find about it. And Stan Winston was very much like, he wanted to basically have the most fun time he could with his first directorial movie. Sure. And it was like, that was apparently throughout the entire making of it. And so they were allowed to kind of do whatever they wanted. So they kind of got to throw in a bunch of different things for the sake and love of monster movies. So it was like the xenomorph looking like that, or the Pumpkinhead looking like a xenomorph, clear influence there. And then the cabin to where the kids go is actually a cabin from one of the Friday the 13th movies, the final chapter. So it's the exact same cabin. It's like these people clearly just had a love for it. And I know this is the hard part though, is like debating a movie. Like it's like, where does that debate, like where does it stop? Like, or like, you know, that affects the viewing, because then a lot of my research really isn't like, what would you say? Like, it's not gonna affect someone's viewing of it. Maybe it's less effective, I feel like, but
see, that's what I was gonna say is like, I understand that and I agree with all that. It doesn't make the movie good though. It doesn't make it a good movie. You know what I mean? Like, I appreciate all of that, and like I get, you know, like they were trying to have fun with it. They got the same cabin. They're like, oh, let's make a monster. Like, that one's scary. Like, I get that, but like, and I get that they tried, but at the same time, like, I like they tried with the sets and like the effects and stuff like that and everything. But I mean, going back to the story, I'm like, what is even happening in this? Like, what am I supposed to be watching? Am I supposed to be watching a horror movie, or am I supposed to be watching a intense drama with supernatural elements, like a Southern Gothic kind of a thing? Like, and I feel like they were trying to do both, and they just completely missed the mark. Like, and like didn't weave those two together in a way that made me care. Because again, like the teenagers, I could not give less of a shit about what happened to them. Like, and they like granted, you know, the only one who really deserved it was Joel because he was the only one who was guilty. Everybody else was trying to help and like was super upset about it, but like, you know, but then they don't, and then then they get killed, and it's like, yeah, well, here it is, and like, you know, and like I totally get all that and everything, but just with just the culmination of all of those bad things, and then like besides Ed, there's a lot of overacting and underacting. Like there's some scenes where I'm like
really bad 80s acting.
I'm like, calm down. I'm like, you do not need to be this dramatic right now. Then sometimes I'm like, why aren't you more upset? Or like, you know what I mean? Like it's just like I don't know. I could even appreciate it a little bit more if it was like if like a certain character was like overacting or underacting the whole time, but they all like go up and down and up and down and up and down, and it's like it makes me feel like there's a bunch of different directors, like, so like give me more, they're like, no, calm down, like, no, calm down, and it's just like each scene is like directed by a different person who just like got to wear the director hat for that scene, and they're like, no, give me more, and then they're like, oh, and it's like, okay, and then the next scene they're like a reserved quiet person all of a sudden again, and it's like, so who are these people? I cannot connect with these people who are being killed at all. And I can connect with him, I understand his struggle and everything, but they lose me as soon as he flips and he's like, no, I don't want to do this because I have to personally experience it now. And I'm like, okay, well then now I don't care what happens to any of them. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, I can understand that. Like, I think for me, it's like when it comes to loving this, deciding to like love this movie for what it is, it's like during that time period, the 80s.
I want to point out that you said deciding to love this movie, like you had to choose to love this movie.
Yeah, because it's like, I know this is the thing with like bad movies these days, which is I think an interesting idea, even with the title of your podcast and like the premise of your podcast, which is Bad Movie Debate. It's like we're watching these movies and there is a form of enjoyment to be had from a bad movie.
Oh, of course. Yeah, there's good bad movies.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and I feel like this is like one of those good bad movies because I think the reason why is that it does for a lot. It breaks a lot of rules like that you would want the thing to follow, and you're just like, man, it really doesn't want to follow that, and it's and it just kind of continuously revs up throughout the entire movie. That was one thing I kind of noticed about it. Just keeps revving up, like all the way to the point that, you know, it's Ed Harley like full on, like as close as he ever gets to the Pumpkinhead thing, and it just like eyes rolling back in his head, and he's basically you know, becomes one with the Pumpkinhead, and like that whole thing I think is just super interesting, rather than it just being like a solo monster attacking and everyone's kind of running and fleeing and all of that kind of stuff. It's like there is like this weird supernatural aspect of the film that just really like not only moves the plot but also just like confuses the characters a lot, because that is true that in the acting, like with the performance is a huge piece of this film, and in terms of like everyone outside of Ed is not a good actor. No. And it's like the witch's role is fairly easy. She's just creepy. It's all there in the makeup. But like with Ed, you have like all the different elements that play in an emotional scene. But then the teenagers, like the part where Billy actually gets hit, the one girl who like ends up like going into shock, she becomes the one with the crucifix and comes up with the spiritual aspect of how she thinks she can fight this thing. She's just in the background, like just like losing her mind, and you're just kind of like
freaking out.
But it's just too much. Like you're like this is like, wait a minute, what are you doing? Like she wasn't even the one directly affected by the thing. She was just there. Yeah. So it's like really weird in that part, but it's kind of funny at the same time. Like I feel like, you know how there's moments where you said like you laughed at this film. It's like. Truly, like, especially at my age, there's nothing that truly like scares me, except for maybe Alien, which was a movie you referenced earlier that has some genuinely scary parts.
That's just fucking scary, dude.
But just like in this film, that like the scary stuff can also be like funny, and it's really like, and it's almost like, because what did you kind of expect? You know what I mean? Like Ed Harley's decision, what the teenagers are doing, like all of it's just bad decisions leading to bad things.
Well, yeah, which is, I mean, you know, everybody always makes the jokes about like, you know, doing the the dumbest things you can do in a scary situation. Like that's what the crux of horror is like going down into the basement without a flashlight when you hear a weird noise and like you just moved into a house that you know is supposed to be haunted, you know, like yeah, like they definitely make all of those kind of decisions, but like I don't know, I can be more forgiving of movies that do that because I enjoyed those movies. You know what I mean? I did not enjoy this movie very much. Like again, like really the xenomorph thing, like ripoff really did as soon as I saw that scene and was like, oh my God, that's the xenomorph. I was definitely checked out because it's like I've seen this monster do so much more and so much better in the past. And again, like I mean, I get, you know, I don't know that they were having fun with it and like everything like that, but you can you can still have fun with the movie and still make the plot make sense, you know, and like flesh out in a way that like is interconnected in a way that like still does. Cause like I was saying earlier, like if you focus on the teens and stuff, like you can have the whole witch ritual scene to like get like he brings in the Pumpkinhead and stuff and like I just think it's like. And again, like I'm not saying every movie has to have a point, but I feel like the point of this movie would have been better. Like the end result of this movie would have been better if the point was like outsiders come in and disrupt a small town, does something to get rid of them for disrupting their way of life and like bringing their city ways into our small cozy town and stuff like that. I feel like that kind of like campy trope works a little bit better like if you tell the story like that. And again, you can still have Ed and like him bringing it in, like you know, like just like spend more times with the teens, like going to the cabin and like trying to figure out what they're gonna do. You have Joel being an asshole and being like, who cares, like cut off the lines, like whatever, like da 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 and stuff. And then we're cutting back to Ed slowly but surely like cut out some of like his like 30 minutes of him getting Pumpkinhead and make it like smaller, make that like the B story as we're building into the Pumpkinhead finally coming. And then like it comes and then boom. And then we have monster movie galore, you know? And then like by then, since I spend more time with the teenagers, the victims, I actually care about them. You know what I mean? Cause like, and I really didn't care for Ed, especially at the very end when he's like, I have to kill myself to stop it. It's the only way. Yeah. And then he shoots himself in the fucking head and then gets up out of the truck and walks over and then falls over and then is still trying to reach the gun so he can shoot himself in the head again. Like he's
a strong boy. He's a strong boy. No, Jonathan. No, I'm kidding. No, Jonathan. He's controlled clearly by the living part that controls him, which is
I'm just saying, man. There is a bullet wound in his temple. Like it is in there. And like he didn't just graze himself and miss and then got delirious and dropped the gun. He shot himself straight in the fucking head and still had 5 more minutes of the movie to have a really dramatic death scene. And then the one girl, the survivor girl, he's like, kill me. This is my fault. Kill me. And she's like, pop, 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 pop. And then it's over. And then that's it. And then like the witch goes and buries him and like he's now Pumpkinhead and stuff. And it's like, I don't know. But then like also again, like, that's another thing. Like, okay, Ed's the main character and it's his struggle and stuff. Give me some more teams. He's the next Pumpkinhead. Somebody calls on him. Like it's him. Like,
that's
give
so
me more
interesting.
Of that
you thought
lore.
that it was.
Give me more of that lore.
Well, it was so interesting. Like that's an interesting take, but like it's interesting that you perceive that Ed Harley was buried where that was. I think there's something more to that because think about, this is going to take a second, but think about the prequel. Okay. So, or not the prequel, sorry. The preface to the whole film. So like the shot in the past, the flashback. So he's there as a kid. This guy who's all scarred up runs and is banging on the Harley homestead. Yeah. And he's wanting in. You're like, why is he coming here? Oh, there is a backstory about a girl who I didn't kill her, didn't mean to kill her, blah, blah, blah. This is 1952. Yeah. And then I thought about the age of haggis. And then I thought about, okay, when Ed first unburies unburies Pumpkinhead, it's like in the form of a baby, and then it grows like, or a toddler, basically like a small person, and then it grows into a big thing. And then at the end, it's like, okay, Pumpkinhead died. And to me, what I perceived is that Haggis reburied the same body that was there that Ed Harley dug up, which was the Pumpkinhead baby, which I think, because there's one line from Haggis. This is the thing that I love so much about it, is like, my idea of the projection of the story is like, I feel like there's all this amazing subtext, and a lot of the other mechanics that it tries to be a monster movie gets in the way of this story, but I can still sense it out. Haggis reburies Pumpkinhead toward the end. The girl that was killed from the beginning of where that man was involved that was banging on the Harley homestead was the daughter of Haggis. And then because Haggis then says like, no, you can't revive the dead. Like, I can't do that for you. And I feel like that she would only know that for a fact, especially being a witch, that she herself attempted to do that with her own daughter. And she essentially created the Pumpkinhead, and the demonic forces given her just like a really long form of immortality, so to speak. And then that's why she's so very able to kind of concisely like warn Ed Harley, are you sure you want to go down this path? I've been down this path before. You can't revive the dead. This is what will absolutely happen if you do it. Like, to know that it's not just like this like premonition thing and the witch's mind. I feel like it's a personal experience for her character. And that's why I think the witch is like obviously the biggest story element for the thing. But that's
so how many times have you seen this movie?
I've seen it twice. I think maybe three times. I think I watched it one time really late at night. Might have been drunk. Fell asleep.
Well, fair enough.
Yeah.
I guess my question is, I feel like I get what you're saying, and yes, it makes sense, but like,
I know.
I don't like my hand being held in movies, but like, where the fuck did you get that from? Like, just one line, line. I'm supposed to just piece that all together and stuff. Again, I don't like my hand being held. I don't want to be told exactly what's happening per se. I like to figure stuff out, but like, what? Like, I agree with you. Again, I agree with you. Like, yeah, that makes sense, and it does elevate it a bit, but like, so give me a little bit more of that. You know what I mean?
I know. Like, I wanted more of it. And I know there's other Pumpkin movies, and I personally haven't seen them. There's like three more. Yeah. And I want to watch them just because I'm hoping more that's brought into it. But it's also like, these things are on the outskirts, any of the other monster movies nowadays, Alien, or the ones we mentioned, Alien, Bram Stoker's Dracula, freaking any of the Universal monster movies from the classics. You can go out and buy these movies. Freaking Pumpkinhead 2, the only copy I found of it was $75 on eBay. What is happening? Like, and it's like these really below the radar stuff. Yeah, and I feel like because they're not super mainstream, they're like, quote unquote, like a lot of people started to use this term like maybe 2015 or so, 2016. People were calling certain horror films like elevated horror, which I don't agree with that term, but like, it's like, there is like more, there's this more huge, I think what people mean by that is there's this huge bigger thick layer of subtext that they're asking an audience that is prone to go to see horror films simply for scares. They're asking them to think. And then a lot of people go see horror film, not to say that was your perception or my perception, but it's like, it did take like the second time viewing, I continually thought more about it. Like I was just like, oh, because then how it ends, and then you can kind of think, retroactively, and you can think also in the future, which is crazy. But
yeah, but at the same time, like a movie like this, I don't think I think I should be able to get that all from the first viewing. Like that makes such a better story. Like so I'm gonna say it's an overcorrection. It's an overcorrection. They tried to have some more deeper subtext and stuff. And because that makes the beginning scene make sense. Because the only reason you need the beginning scene there is in my viewing of it is, so Ed Harley knows that fucking Pumpkinhead exists. and it's like a thing that is real.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the only reason for that scene. Like, that's the only reason for that opening thing. And then so you can de-escalate the plot and be like, oh my God, a bunch of action. Now let's take a step back and slow things down and build back up. I get that.
Yeah.
Like that's good storytelling, depending on what story you're trying to tell, right? But like, other than that, like, and like, again, that makes that scene make sense. It makes that whole like first like 5 to 10 minutes, however long it is, make sense. But how the fuck am I supposed to know that? How the fuck am I supposed to know that? You know what I mean? Like, and again, I consider myself, you know, I mean, I'm doing a whole fucking podcast about movies and stuff. Granted, I haven't won a debate yet, but like, I feel like I'm pretty good at like finding that stuff, especially when I'm really paying attention. And I'm just like, I just don't understand how I'm supposed to find that on a first viewing and stuff like that.
I think
like,
Stan Winston was definitely more in his head. I mean, I think what I see is like a studio like MGM basically decided, okay, Stan Winston is very professional in this whole other aspect of the industry. Let's give him a shot. And as a first-time director, I think he took a huge swing for an indie movie. And at the same time, like,
and a miss.
He did like, well, he stole from the best, which is like, you know, the copying of the Xenomorph for like the elements of the typical slasher movie that were coming out of like the 70s. It's like, I don't know, like he took on this weird form, especially probably at a time. I mean, it did decent in the box office. Like it made money, it made its money back and a little more, but like during a time where movies really weren't all that great, there's a lot of like bad 80s movies.
Oh, of course.
Your whole podcast could probably just cover the 80s for like
literally just do the 80s and I'd have like at least a year worth of, even doing it every 2 weeks, I could have at least a year easily. But like, I don't know. I'm going to
stronger story.
I'm going to quote my buddy Tyler from the first episode when we had a long-winded thing talking about Alien 3 and whether it was about Joan of Arc or it was anti-Joan of Arc. If it's taking us this long to dissect it and to get to it, does that doesn't make it any better because we're having to think about it and watch it so many times to get it and stuff. That doesn't make it better for me. Like I'd like to, I love movies I have to go back and rewatch, like Seven. You got to watch Seven a couple times to really see everything. But I still enjoyed it on the first viewing. You know what I mean? Like they didn't tell a good enough story to make me want to go back and see what I missed. And that's why I think and that's part of the reason why I think it's a bad movie. And like everything else I've said before, but like I don't want to watch that movie again. Yes, you made some good points and like everything like that, but I'm like, I don't care at this point. Yeah.
Well, there's the antithesis to that. So you like, for example, when I went to go see the movie Top Gun Maverick the first time in theaters, saw it in Dolby, an amazing experience, fantastic movie. I was like,
shit was gas, dude. Yeah, shit was awesome.
But it's really interesting because a lot of people have been like sort of like digesting it and saying like, this is like the most like structured, like Hollywood-esque movie you could make. And I was like, yeah, it is structured really well because it's also really edited really well. And it's got the story and it's got all those elements. But the second viewing of that movie is like, oh, I got everything from it from the first experience. And then to watch it again, I went, it's hard, like great movies that hit all of those points for you. Like I rarely watch, like, it's like, it's even my favorite director, Paul Thomas Anderson, the same with his movies. Like they hit everything for me and they have all of the elements that you could possibly want in a movie, but I don't watch them as often. Like a movie like that, meaning like, would it require multiple viewings? Not so much like the enjoyability of watching it, but it's like, I kind of like to dig through more stuff like that to see if they're, like I was saying, like I kind of dug all this weird, who knows if it was the actual subtext of the movie, but I just kind of dug all that out of it just by continuously thinking about it. It's like this thing where in movies, like there are things that just stick with you from a movie, whether it's an image from the film or something that was said, and it just I keep kind of thinking about it. And it's definitely I feel like a horror film that does it really forces you to think, surprisingly, because it's still a small B horror film that's a monster movie. I'm like, why am I thinking so much about it?
I have a perfect example. I mean, this is a quality movie that we're never going to talk about on this show. First, before I get into that, like, I mean, I totally understand what you're saying. That's the whole point of this movie. Like, you know, like I do not like Alien 3. I never have, but I sat there and I watched it a couple times and found the good so I could argue the good in it. So like, I totally get that.
Nice.
And I just don't, an example for me of like, a movie that, so I tried to watch, The Witch, you know, Eggers.
Okay.
I tried to watch it. I tried to watch it with a couple of people. Like, the dialogue is so particular to the time because it came from the records, like, and like they use the language like so heavily. I couldn't really get into it. I don't think we even finished watching it because we were just like, we have no idea what's going on.
Oh wow.
But then for the next 2 weeks, I had certain scenes and shots in my head that I could not get out. I just could not stop thinking about them. I was going to sleep thinking about them and being like, fuck, that's really scary. But like, I didn't even know what the context was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I went back and I watched it by myself. And it's one of my fucking favorite movies. It's so good. And I've gone back and rewatched it a bunch of times because it can be told 3 different ways depending on how you want to watch it. Like, and like, that's great. And like, I like that. I just don't think this movie did any of that for me. There was no single thing that I was like, well, that might be interesting if I watch it thinking about it this way. Cause like with The Witch, you can watch it from the father's perspective, the daughter's perspective, or you can take a step back and look at it as a folk tale, because it's The Witch, a New England folk tale. You can watch it as if it's a story that it's the actual playing out of a story that they would tell their kids to not go into the woods, like a cautionary tale. Like, we're actually seeing what that story is, like in like graphic, intense detail. Instead of just like, well, there was this family that was near the wood, like got banished because they went away from God. Like they were like being all weird and stuff. Like one of those, like, okay, now go to sleep. Like say your prayers and go to sleep and don't go near the woods. Like it, like you could watch it from all of those and you get all that the first viewing. You're like, holy shit, there's so much going on. Again, that's a quality movie. So that's the most we'll probably ever talk about it on Bad Movie Debate. But there was nothing in Pumpkinhead that I could latch onto to be like, well, wait a minute, hold on, let's see how this plays out. And then like, well, maybe I could go back and I'll change my mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I did watch it a couple times and both times I was like, nah, nothing is interesting. Nothing is getting me on this viewing. You know, there's a couple little things here and there that like, but I don't even really remember what they were. You know what I mean? Like that made, I was just like, okay, I mean, that was a little bit better than I thought it was. But then a lot of it was, nope, that's just as bad as I remembered it. Like, that's just as frustrating as I remember it.
I mean
just fucking
The Witch has like the tagline that's like, you know, obviously that it's a New England folk tale, and then the tagline for Pumpkinhead is a grim fairy tale, which is super interesting to maybe put that lens on for the movie as well, to try and garner something out of that. And I think I agree with you about The Witch because I'm going to be honest, like me and my buddies had the exact same reaction to it. One, we were watching it on a fairly small TV at home.
Yeah, same.
That's a rough first watch for The Witch, especially when you don't have subtitles on.
Yeah, like, exactly.
They're all talking in Old English and you're like, oh no, wait a minute.
Yeah, and the dad's voice is so deep that you can barely understand him even with the subtitles, but he's such a good actor.
It's like crackling the screen, like your TV's like shaking, like because he's like so much bass in his voice.
It's just booming,
that was the thing, dude. Like, but then the same thing is like, I kind of experienced that with Pumpkin, and my first viewing was like not this fantastic experience, like, and I left it going like, oh, though that was a horror film, I guess. And then I just kind of kept thinking about it, and then I was like, man, I wonder what that was all about. Okay, but and that was the question.
Was it just that one line from the Witch that you kept thinking about? Like, what was that moment? Because I can't think again of a single. Again, you explained everything, and like I agree with you, that does make sense and that would work. But like, what did you grab onto to even think of that, to like put that exposition in there for yourself? Like what was that grab?
It's 100% the mystery of Haggis the Witch, because the way she's presented is even like, you know, he goes and the neighbor's like, where she live, the old woman, you know, and that's kind of how they treat her. It's like this old woman in the woods. They don't even like necessarily deem her as a witch to themselves, but they know that she probably has some magical power. At least that's the word. And then you know automatically that that it's like, who is this woman? Where does she come from? And it's like, and it's also being a witch. Like you could see it as being part of a fairy tale. So you have these like proclivities to when you're experiencing a witch tale. But to answer your question more directly, it was like, it was the dialogue, the stuff that she said, where I was just like, man, what the hell was all that about? Like I had to like really think about it.
I don't know, but like the dialogue is so bad throughout the movie. Like so like, yes, her dialogue is interesting, but like that's the only dialogue they took the time to put into it, which honestly furthers your point. You know what I mean? And like I get that, but like all the other dialogue around it to all get the other there,
are so
like
bad.
And and then the the bumfuck Southerners, like all their dialogue is terrible, like and stuff. So like if I gotta wade through all of that shit just to get to a tiny little gold coin that's in her little chalice, that's not fun. That's not a good movie.
Would you ever consider this? Like, okay, so maybe a rewatch, right, is in order later on. But before you do that, you have this thing in front of you that tells you, before going into the movie, that you think about that it has a B slasher film trapped in a grim fairy tale. Like, because it's almost like all this stuff with the teenagers and everything going on, because Ed Harley's story is so dominant and the witch has like this intense subtext. It's like these kids are just like wrapped up. They're experiencing, they're basically getting like the side winds of everything. They're like, what is it? Why? Like, you know, it's like, because truly it's like about like the Ed Harley, the witch, and Pumpkinhead, and you're like, and there's so much more to it. I don't know. I feel like looking at it is like, this movie is trapped in this movie. Like it may be more enjoyable. It's kind of like Trick or Treat. Like the movie has like different genres of horror trapped in this one big anthology.
But that's not what they were going. But that's not what they were going for. That's not the structure
of this movie. No,
that's not what they were going for. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like I get what you're saying, but I feel like they wrote two different movies and then smacked them together. And then like it's like when like There Will Be Blood and No Country for Old Men were filming at the same time in Texas, and they like they were burning stuff for one movie, so they couldn't film that day because all the smoke was ruining their shots and stuff. It's like they were shooting two movies at the same time, and they were like, "Oh hey, let's just smash these together. Let's just make one big movie, and we'll edit it together, you know, like, and it'll be fine." You
can't compare those two movies either. It's hard. Like you can't. They're totally different movies.
No, exactly. Like, and that's what I'm saying. I feel like I'm watching two different movies that were smashed together. Like if you took No Country for Old Men and There Will Be Blood and just said, hey, they happened. They were shot at the same time at the same place. Like if you tried to smash them together, I'd be like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Because again, like, I want to feel for you were talking about like story and characters and stuff. I've already talked so much about the story and how I think it's like flat and could have been different. These characters, why the fuck should I give a fuck about any of these characters? Why should I care about any of them? You know what I mean? The teenagers, the ones who get killed, I'm laughing. I'm having a great time watching them get. And I mean, you know, people who are horror fans, you know, like you watch Friday the 13th and you're like, oh, that's such a great kill. Like when Kevin Bacon gets the thing through his in the bed and stuff, like that's a great kill
in this movie.
There is no
sex in this movie, which is also, I think that's something to talk about though.
They already committed their like capital offense. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's like you still have these like horny teenagers going on this weird extravaganza with a trailer and dirt bikes on the back, and you're like, they got to be hard up.
As soon as they were until a fucking kid died. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like you see them
buzzkill.
Like 5 minutes into them being there, a kid dies. If you're still horned up after that, then you need to see a fucking psychiatrist. Okay, so like, of course there's no sex in this movie.
Yeah, let's.
God damn it, John. God damn it, your poor wife. Your poor wife.
I know. It's like, why are these kids having sex? I know there's a monster out there, and they killed a couple kids. Like,
they killed a kid. Like that one dude. That one dude specifically killed 2 kids, and like he's like, I don't care. I ain't going to jail. Like, why aren't they fucking?
Here's the course. Those two. Okay, Joel locks the other 2 teenagers like in the closet. The guy and the girl. There had to have been a scene that was shot with them deciding, oh, well, we're trapped here. Let's make good use of our time. And they cut it from the movie. But it's
my fucking God.
That's the thing is like, if it did that, it would have gone more in the direction of a slasher movie if they did.
So you're saying
like sex is generally involved with that.
So what's the point? What's the point you're trying to make here? Are you trying to say that it's good or bad that they didn't have sex after
I
the
think
inciting
I'm just
incident?
coming back to that idea that this movie keeps like setting up the rules of what your expectation is of a monster movie, and then being like, no, but we're doing this, and then you go, what? Like it kind of takes you for a ride. I like movies that like it's just very like going back to our conversation about The Witch. It's like very not comfortable. Like it's like like the story and how things flow isn't comfortable. And I experienced that with a lot of movies. You'd be surprised at what movies like I first watched and really hated and then went back to watch. Like the Conjuring movies. This is crazy, but like when I first watched the Conjuring movies, like, oh my god, these are the stupidest movies I've ever seen.
Okay, well, the Conjuring 1 was
crazy.
Conjuring 1 is good. Conjuring 1 is good. Conjuring 2 is terrible. Conjuring 3 is even worse. The 2 and 3 are terrible.
Two? Like
I hate 2, dude. 2 is a fucking, and I'm not the first person to say this, but there is a fucking superhero movie. It's a Marvel movie dressed up in Christianity, where the demon is the villain and the Warrens are the superheroes through God. That's all it is. That's how it plays. It doesn't play like a horror movie. It plays like that. Conjuring 1, super fucking scary, and like has all those great elements of like a haunted house, and then like they're gonna exorcise the house and stuff like that. But again, like I just don't think there's a way I could go back and watch this movie and like it. And again, I think we've been talking for almost an hour and a half here, and I just don't. And I understand everything you're saying, and I agree with a good bit of it for sure. But give me more of The Witch then, if that's the point. Give me more. Again, I'm not. I consider myself pretty astute when it comes to storytelling in movies. I'm not a fucking professional like you are, but I try to be. I try to be and stuff. But no,
everything you said, I totally agree with. There's nothing I disagree with. It's like, but because it's like it really is like this it's such a niche taste, and I feel like the director did that to himself. Like a first time director, it's so easy to do that. Is like you make a movie that's definitely going to shut out most of an audience because you're trying to be so like below, you're trying to be so behind the curtain, and a horror film usually has to have everything out in front, like just for you to be able to enjoy the elements of a horror film. Like it's got to be scary, there's got to be this, and I don't know, like I totally agree with the stuff that you're saying, and I just think it's a great bad movie. But
at the end of the day, you agree that it's a bad movie, right?
Oh yeah, yes,
yeah.
I have
it's
to
a bad
because
movie.
For the sake of this podcast, the premise of it, it's like who's winning this debate. I could definitely say, I can only subjectively like really take people for a ride, but no one's enjoying even the car we're supposed to get in, which is Pumpkinhead. Like no one wants to get in that car.
That's what I'm trying to say is like you're right, and maybe I will go back and watch this movie because like a lot of you're saying like yes, the whole witch angle and stuff like really is interesting. Maybe one of these days I could get a hold of the next ones and like maybe it'll be more fleshed out and stuff. But like
Probably
it's like
not.
what do they say? Probably not. What do they? I'm not paying $75 fucking for Pumpkinhead too. Jesus. Absolutely not. But what do they say about like a good like a complete story so I still have questions at the end of it then. You know what I mean? And like they say like a good cliffhanger isn't like the non-end of a story. It's when the hero gets on his journey and he's like he's done, he succeeded, and he comes back to his hometown and his whole town is on fire. For some reason that completes the narrative of everything else, but it leaves like because it could just end right there where like he did all of this stuff, all of these good things, and accomplished his goal, and bad shit still happened to him, and boom, that's still a complete story. But you could springboard off of that. Why did that happen? I don't get that. I get I get two stories that don't feel complete, and I have so many questions that I need to at least have some kind of an answer for. You know what I mean?
The movie does also end like super, not necessarily abrupt, but very ambiguously. Like it's like that you still have the two people alive, and then you have Pumpkinhead dead, and Ed Harley's dead, and the witch is still alive, and it's like it is clearly a setup for like more to come. And I don't know what's in the other 3 movies, but I know in the general consensus is for Pumpkinhead is the cult, the very minimal cult following that does enjoy Pumpkinhead, the first one, doesn't acknowledge the other 3, and they're asking for a prequel to the first one, which personally I would love to see a prequel.
A prequel would help.
That shit.
A prequel would be cool. Give me that 1952 story. In that prequel at the beginning of that opening scene, you know, show it from a different perspective, like different camera angles and stuff, and like that's little Ed in there freaking out and stuff like that. Like that's great, like that's all fine and dandy, but it's not going to happen. It's probably not going to happen. You know what I mean?
Well, now we're putting it out there in the zeitgeist. It's going to happen probably now.
That's true. I mean, like the fucking as we talked about, the reviews literally went up like in the 2 or 3 days that from when you checked them. So people are fucking watching it. I mean, it is October now and stuff, and people finally took the time to review it, I guess, but I don't know,
buried
man.
Under lock and key. I mean, I found the movie on a shelf in a Dollar Tree, so it was $1. I didn't lose a lot of money watching this movie, but I was excited because the cover, I'll show you real quick since we're on this podcast and we have the video thing. I know for listeners, this is not going to help at all, but like
this audio medium.
This is like the front cover poster for like the movie, and it's like it's dope.
It's a great poster. It's a great art.
This is what fans of Pumpkinhead envision in their mind, but when they watch the movie, it is absolutely not that. But there's a big want there.
Exactly, it left a lot to be desired. You know, and don't get me wrong, I love bad movies too. I'm super excited. I got from work. I got a 4K of Van Helsing. God, I'm so excited to watch it sometime this October. I fucking love that movie.
Hugh Jackman?
Yes, dude, that movie's. I love that movie. It's so bad, but I love that fucking movie. You know what I mean? So I get that mentality. I totally get that mentality. But like, there's enjoyable moments of that. Hugh Jackman's a great actor. Kate Beckinsale is also a great actor. Like,
oh yeah.
So they can
great
work,
talent.
What's it called? The transformation scene, the werewolf transformation scenes are amazing. They're some of the best, dude. Like, so,
oh man,
you know, it falls short in terms of plot and like what happens and like how it happens. The editing isn't that great, but you still have those redeeming qualities. This one doesn't have any of that shit. That shit.
No one gets redeemed in the story, so the movie itself is a metaphysical representation of itself.
Again,
it's a stretch. It's such a stretch.
Again, I feel like you're grasping at straws, and like if you're arguing it so hard, like
no.
I don't think that makes people want to watch this movie. You know what I mean?
No,
like,
I know.
To be honest, I highly recommend everybody does sit down and watch this movie because obviously there's a lot to unpack. It's on Amazon Prime. That's how I watched it.
Hell yeah!
But like, I don't know,
or
man.
Go to your Dollar Tree and buy it for $1 because that's all it's worth now.
Go to Dollar Tree and see if you can buy it. You could get it at at my work for probably less than that. I think it's 95 cents.
This is what we should do. The next time you and I do this like podcast episode, when I get back on the Bad Movie Debate, we should do Pumpkinhead 2. Find a way to watch that. I'm sure you could probably stream it for $2. Yeah, you might be able to stream it for cheap. But like, it would be super interesting to continue the trend to see. It probably doesn't get better, but it would be interesting to know.
It would be really interesting if I liked that one and you hated that one, because if it blew your whole witch theory like out, like it was like, nah, that's absolutely not what we were going for.
Not at all.
But then I was like,
it was actually his friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was actually Ed Harley's friend, the guy he goes to give the feed to him. It was that guy's daughter, and then that guy was like, he had sex with Haggis like way back in the day. And she was a hag because her name's Haggis, and he banished her out of the woods. Like,
exactly, and that's why I was so mad her name was fucking Haggis, because she's the old hag who lives in the swamp. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? It's just like, you say they put all this. You say that they put all this effort and energy into it, and I'm just like, where? where.
Well, think about the way that teenagers call each other by their names. Like it's like Steve, or it's like, come on, Joel. Like it's like there's so much accentuation into like who they like. Their names represent their like. I never met a Joel I liked. So
well, that's the thing. I only remember Joel's name because he's the guy who killed the kid and was like, I already killed another kid. I can't go to jail for this. And I was like, holy shit. Before you started saying their names, I couldn't have told you any of those other fucking characters' names. I could not. I could not. I was like, you said Tracy, and I was like, yeah, that's right. And you're like, Steve, and I'm like, yeah, that's right. Yeah, one of them, Steve. And then what's name another one of them? What's another
I forget the other girl's name. Yeah, the girl's name. The other girl, I don't remember her name. And she's the one who survives, which is like,
there's six people. There's six of the teens. Only 3 of their names, and I only knew one before you said the other 2, and you don't even know the other 3. You know what I mean? So how the fuck am I supposed to care? Like, you know what I mean?
It would have been better maybe if it was just like 4, like it was 2 guys, 2 girls. Like that would have blended pretty well, and I don't know. Like I feel like that would have maybe kept it a little more tighter. Yeah, and they could save some money.
They could have saved some money, and then what they could have done is they could have made the girl who survives the super Christian one, and then they could have done that angle. I know you're trying to say they subverted it and stuff, but like it would have worked with those. You know what I mean? Like it would have worked. So I'm just saying. I guess my closing argument is there's a lot that could have happened and should have happened. I understand why some of it didn't. I do not understand why most things did happen. And I just feel like, again, it's 2 different movies trying to be told. It's a dramatic, like, what's it, Daniel Day-Lewis Western of a dad losing his son and his grief mashed together with an 80s monster slash fic, and they do not go hand in hand in any way at all, and I just can't. Oh my gosh. I can't get behind it, even with your added stuff but that's the thing, the added stuff that you're basing off of one line that you put in there, and there's no other concrete evidence for. You know what I mean? Like, well,
there's other concrete evidence. Like, I mean, well, that's why I was like wrapping it up with like how the Pumpkinhead doll is the same, and then they talk about her daughter, like, you know, like that whole bit.
No, you're speculating that it's her daughter. They never. That's not confirmed.
No, yeah, I'm speculating that it's her that it is her daughter. But no, yeah, like there had to be more of a reason for the preface, is what I'm saying. Like the opening scene, there was definitely more weight there, which is why like Ed hardly even knew anything about haggis, like that she existed. It's not explored. My only argument, like my final argument for it, would just be like it is one of those horror films that is incredibly bad on a scale of production. Like, and that involves acting, that involves like the execution of the story. But I feel upon more viewings, like an added viewing, that you could potentially find a little bit more into that subtext to enjoy. But yeah, it is, you have to strive for it. Yeah, it's really like, and if you don't want to, which in most horror films you don't want to, like no one wants to do that, like you might be able to get more out of it. But well,
again, I want to do that, and I couldn't with this one. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna have to hear you say it. I'm gonna have to hear you say it.
Oh, that you won this debate.
I need you to, are you officially conceding? Because you're not going to sway me on this one, bud.
No, I'll concede because I agree. It is a bad movie. So,
but that's the thing. You need to agree with me that the thought, let's put it this way. I'll take this victory if you will say, that, let's put it this way. I'll agree that the thought and the passion and the energy was there, but the production, as you said, and the story,
execution,
and the characters, like which you said yourself is the most important thing, do not work. True. Unless you add a bunch of exposition that you can find off of a couple tiny little things.
And imagination, like not
So this movie is really good if you like imagine it was better. If that's what your argument is, then yeah, I'm gonna have to take this one.
Okay, that's perfect. Yeah, no, I agree. It's great.
Well, yes, you guys hear that? An hour and 39 minutes later, I am the master debater. Finally, I finally win one.
Yeah,
but just barely, but just barely by the skin of my teeth. I am the master debater.
Admit, though,
you're being stubborn as shit.
I love fucking movies. I love fucking movies, and I have very like strict opinions about movies. I'm really bad at defending those opinions. Like I genuinely really bad at defending it because
have you listened to the rest of my episodes? This is the first one I've technically won, and like just barely.
Yeah, because I feel like there are people that like can articulate all of that stuff that's like absolutely on a general basis very bad about the movie, and it's like, and I'll be like, oh, you could do these very small things, but it's like that's not what movies require to enjoy. So I completely understand.
It's not even that. It's not what they did. Is the thing.
Yeah.
You know, that's my thing.
It makes me sad because Stan Winston is gone, and we may never get a director's cut of this movie because I feel like maybe that could have helped. Maybe
again, it would have been better if it was like a full 2 hours. Like I think, and we had a little bit more of some of that weird trapped in the closet sex scene that you were yearning for. Apparently, as you said,
I wasn't yearning for it. I was just like, hey, if there was going to be one, this is when you do it.
Like, I don't know, man. You were pretty like, who cares if that kid died? They should have still had sex. Like you were pushing for it. Is what I mean. That's what I heard. I don't know. Well, in summation, Jonathan works in the film industry, but he's an idiot when it comes to movies. Just kidding. Jonathan's a very good friend, and he knows a lot more about movies than damn near just about everybody I know, because he's been around it for so long and has been working on it for a long time, and everything. And you do good stuff. I've seen your short films. They are award winning for me, at least, but also literally, like they're literally award winning. Where can you direct people to check out your stuff? Plug yourself. Give us a little plug.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I have zero social media other than a YouTube channel that's got a couple of my short films on it because I'm very writer's mind. I can't do social media at all for some reason. Yeah. It's so bad, especially nowadays, but it's just gotten progressively worse since like my MySpace page back in like 2000.
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah, MySpace, dude. Yeah.
So, yeah. And I think it's, YouTube's the best way to check me out. It's just Jonathan Wymer. You can check me out on YouTube and LinkedIn. I have one of those if there's like people who work in the industry or anything and that just want to connect. Like I obviously have a LinkedIn. That would always be the ways to connect with me.
Hell yeah, Jonathan Wymer on
my
YouTube.
Address is, no, I'm kidding.
You're just gonna tell your wife like, oh yeah, there might be a lot of random people coming to talk to me about Pumpkinhead in the coming weeks, but it's fine.
People just throw pumpkins on my driveway. They're just like, fuck you, man. Movie sucked.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. You know what they're gonna be saying? They're gonna be saying #fuck Jonathan, dude.
Yeah,
#fuck Jonathan, dude. So if we could get that trending, that would make me and some other people very happy. So let's do that. #fuck Jonathan, #bad movie debate, please, on all the social media. Speaking of social media, which I also hate, but I got to do it, I guess. Bad movie debate, all one word, all lowercase, Twitter, Instagram, blah, 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 blah. Follow me as I do 31 for 31. Going to be watching Hocus Pocus 2 tonight. Ooh, super excited for that. To see if that one's any good. Night. Ooh, what'd you think? Real quick, what'd you think?
You want to know what I thought? I thought it was okay.
You thought it was okay? Okay, that's kind of what I thought it was going to be, but like the nostalgia is going to make me love it, I'm sure. So it'll be fine
for sure.
But yeah,
absolutely.
But I'll have my reviews up. You'll see my review, my quick couple sentence review about it before this episode comes out, because it's not going to come out before tonight. So
nice.
But regardless, once again, I just want to remind everybody, I won one. I did it. I told y'all if y'all waited long enough, you'd finally hear me do one. And it finally happened. Lastly, this is Jonathan will have a triumphant return. We have a special thing coming up next episode where Jonathan and Tyler will both be returning, and we're going to do something special. You'll learn more about that as it comes out and everything, but stay tuned on that. Jonathan, thank you again for sitting down with me. I appreciate it.
That was fun.
We could have talked for way longer.
And
that's why you're going to be back so soon. We'll be talking a little bit more horror. Throw Tyler in there. We're going to do something fun next time. Jonathan will be back. Maybe we can find Pumpkinhead 2, as you said. Not paying $70. I'm not paying $75 fucking dollars for it though. So
I'm gonna get a 35 millimeter print. Like,
oh my god,
a 35 millimeter print somewhere. No,
Jesus Christ, no. Oh god. I mean, it would be, but also it'd be like thousands of dollars, like tens of thousands of dollars. Yeah. Anyway, that's not the point. All right, y'all. Appreciate it so much for listening. We'll be back next time. Take it easy.